So let's talk about research proposal writing. As we all know that research proposal is the first step in your project writing, where you tell your supervisory team or your department or your presentation team that this is what you want to do and this is how much you know about that particular topic, and maybe this is how much you intend to cover at the long run. Okay, so you define the scopes, you give the methodology and even some expected results. In this video, we're going to look at how to use ChatGPT, the new sheriff in town that can give us all the answers we need. So the first thing is you have to log into your ChatGPT. If you have not gotten the procedure on how to log in, I'll attach a video that I did for complete beginners on how to use ChatGPT, how to log in and how to join the communities and do many other things. I'll put the link up here and then I'll put the same link in the description so you can just follow along. But for now, once you open your ChatGPT, you can come over here. This is the main platform of ChatGPT. These are previous chats that I had with ChatGPT, and these are other features. Like you can clear the entire conversation, or you can just come change the light mode to dark mode, which I prefer. The dark mode is much more prompt, nice and clear. So this is the prompt area. Okay, this is where you write all your questions. This is where you will do most of the interactions. So for now, our topic for today is research proposal writing for maybe undergrad, master's or PhD, depending on which category you find yourself. It all depends on. At undergrad, it's usually at the basic level, and at master's level, you just go a bit deeper, but at PhD is usually very deep and very detailed about what you intend to cover. So for now, we'll start with the topic, the title. What do you want to work on? So assuming you have just a broader picture of what you want to work on and you want to develop some ideas, okay, because ChatGPT can help you to give you the broader and even much more specific things that have to do with your research. But then you have to specify, you have to take it one step at a time, specifying some of the key things you need to carry out along the way. So let's start with the title. How will you come up with a reasonable title? So assuming in my own case, I want to work on solving flood problems in a given community, maybe in Nigeria, in Kaduna State, for example. And see, I have narrowed it from the global perspective to Kaduna State and maybe in Zaria, if you are very specific. You can be very specific, and ChatGPT can give you that very much detail. So let's say we want to generate like 10 research topics on flood mitigation in Kaduna State of Nigeria. So let's ask ChatGPT. So can you generate 10 research topics on flood management in Kaduna State, Nigeria? All right, sure. Here are 10 possible research topics on flood management in Kaduna State of Nigeria. So you can see it's beginning to give us some topics that we can choose from. An analysis of the effectiveness of existing flood management strategies in Kaduna State, a case study of the past decade. This one is studying past decade. And then we look at investigating the causes and impacts of flooding in urban areas of Kaduna State and developing mitigation strategies. Okay, evaluating the role of community-based flood management in Kaduna State, a case study of selected communities. And then assessing the effectiveness of the Kaduna State Emergency Management Agency in responding to flood disasters in Nigeria, in the state. Okay, analyzing the impact of climate change on flooding in Kaduna State and its implications for flood management strategies. And then we have this examining the role of Geographic Information Systems, GIS, in flood risk assessment and management in Kaduna State. And then we have investigating the economic impacts of flooding on small and medium enterprises in Kaduna State and developing appropriate interventions. You can see these are a variety of topics that cover a wider picture and very much more specific. Like this one, the use of GIS. Like this one, the looking into climate change impact. Okay, and you can see this one, a comparative analysis of flood management approaches in Kaduna State and other states in Nigeria. Lessons for policy and practice. And this is very good, and these are very, very excellent topics. Exploring the challenges and opportunities for private sector participation in flood management in Kaduna State. This is also promising and very nice. Assessing the perception and awareness of flood risks among residents of Kaduna State and its implication for flood management. You can see these are very detailed and exceptional topics. If you want to be very, very specific, you can go ahead and ask it to give you very, very much more specific questions, because one thing with ChatGPT is it remembers a particular conversation, what you are talking about. Like now we've asked it to give us this, and in Kaduna State, we can say it should give us answers that are related to maybe engineering perspective to the flood mitigation. Can you relate the topics to engineering? So you can see, can you relate the topics to engineering? You see here are 10 possible topics research for flood mitigation in Nigeria that are related to engineering. You can see it captures the engineering term. So you can see investigating the effectiveness of hydraulic structures for flood management in Kaduna State, a case study of selected waterways and drainage channels. These are very, very nice, but it changes everything to relate to engineering. So developing a flood risk assessment framework for Kaduna State using engineering approaches and geospatial data analysis. You see, this one now is completely engineering. Designing and optimizing drainage system for urban areas of Kaduna State to reduce flood risks. Very fantastic, related to engineering. Investigating the effectiveness of low-impact development practices in reducing flooding in Kaduna State. Developing a real-time flood monitoring and warning system for Kaduna State using sensors and remote sensing technologies. Completely engineering. So investigating the impact of climate change on the design and maintenance of flood management infrastructure in Kaduna State. This is very, very nice, also and engineering related. Developing sustainable and resilient flood management solutions for vulnerable communities in Kaduna State. Investigating structural integrity of flood management infrastructures in Kaduna State and identifying appropriate maintenance and rehabilitation strategies. Completely engineering. And then we have developing approach for flood management plans for critical infrastructure in Kaduna State, including highways, bridges, and power plants. This is broad, but you can make it narrow if you want. Investigating the effectiveness of flood-proofing techniques, including building elevations, flood barriers, and reducing flood risks in Kaduna State. But for now, what I want to choose and then ask it to develop more content is I would like to go with designing and optimizing drainage system for urban areas of Kaduna State to reduce flood risks. So let's say, can you give us, the first thing is title, and then if you are certain with the title, you've selected a title, then you can ask it to give you an outline, a proposal outline, what you want to cover during the writing process. So can you give us a research proposal outline for topic 3, designing and optimizing this? You can just say it for topic 3 and it will automatically know that this is the topic you're talking about. We're talking about designing and optimizing drainage system for urban areas of Kaduna State to reduce flood mitigation. So you can see this is the outline it is giving you. But it is going to be an introduction, which will cover background and context, purpose of the study, significance of the study, and then it gives you details about what you're going to cover. And then it goes straight to literature review, overview of the flood management and drainage systems in Kaduna, and flood risk smart assessment, drainage system design and optimization, case studies. See, it even highlighted some case studies for you. Then you have research methodology. Just go ahead to give you research questions and objectives. Study area and population. You have to know the study area and then the population. To go straight to data collection, how you're going to collect your data, and you can explain the data collection methods to be used in the study, including surveys, interviews, and secondary data sources, whatever. Data analysis method, you're going to cover all this. And then you can have ethical consideration, explain the ethical consideration to be addressed in the study, including confidentiality, informed consents, and all that. And then in research proposals, usually you have expected results and outcomes, and it covers that as well. So expected results, present the expected results of the study, including design and optimization of the drainage system for urban areas in Kaduna State and the reduction of flood risks, outcomes and implications, timeline and budget. You have to cover all this. You have to give the Gantt chart. You have to give a flow chart of what you're going to cover. And then you see have timeline and budget. Then this is the conclusion part. Then you have a brief summary. And then maybe you have a reference at the end of it, or you have a reference at the end. So let's go into detail, starting from the introduction. What it's going to cover. So can you give us a background of the study? Can you give us the background? Can you give us a background? You say, sure. Now this is how you develop the background on this very topic that we've selected. Okay, so you just go ahead. Kaduna State, located in north central region of Nigeria, is prone to flooding, particularly during the rainy season from June to September. This is very detailed, and you can see it's writing. It's just going to give you the background of the study, Kaduna State, and some of the key flood occurrences that exist in Kaduna State. So you can drive it through because ChatGPT relates to what you want. Okay, you can just be directing it to give you exactly what you want. So the next one, it talks about the existing drainage system in Kaduna State. And the next one, to address the flood problems in Kaduna State, there is need to design and optimize drainage systems in Kaduna State. Yeah, in the urban areas. So it gives you more detail, but this is therefore this research proposal aimed to investigate the design and optimization of the drainage system for urban areas of Kaduna State to reduce flood risks. The proposed research will contribute to the development of effective flood management strategies, and I think this is very, very fantastic. If you're not so well comfortable with this, maybe you need more content, you can just ask it, add more content. Yeah, I need to write more for you. Add more content, and you just keep on writing more. Okay, so here's some additional content. The impact of flooding in Kaduna State had been severe, so you can see it's giving you more details. Okay, it has affected many community sectors of the economy, and many flood has caused damage to critical infrastructures such as bridges, roads, buildings, disrupted transportation and communication systems, agricultural sector. It's been negatively affected. Floods has affected the livestock, crops, and leading to food insecurity and many more. So you can see a lot of more details have been given. So all you need is just to be very specific about what you want. If you want more, also you can give you. See, it has given us, furthermore, flooding has adverse effects on public health. Furthermore, urbanization has exacerbated the problem of flooding. Usually, the cause is usually urbanization. The cities are developing, more water is being generated, and more paved areas are being constructed within the cities, and then that contributed a lot in the flood generation. So you can see it has given us quite a lot. If you are not certain, if you need more, you can still ask it to write more. If you want to be very specific, you can ask it to write more. For example, now I can ask it to write more relating this to engineering perspective. Okay, engineering methods of how the problem has been addressed. Can you relate this to engineering methods applied to solve the flood problem so far? So you just drive it through to what you want it to do, and it is going to give you, certainly in terms of engineering methods, some measures have been taken to address the flood mitigating problems in Kaduna State. So you see, it's very, very detailed. So for example, it gives you some of the construction of drainage channels. Some drainage channels have been constructed in urban areas. So drainage channels have been constructed to part of the engineering methods to curtail this flood problem. And then you can see road construction and maintenance. Roads and bridges have been constructed to facilitate transportation. Now, if you want to go very specific, also you can ask it to be specific about a particular location within Kaduna State. Okay, solid waste management had been also taken into consideration. Flood forecasting had also been taken into consideration, and warning systems as the incorporation of GIS and all this have been taken into consideration in Kaduna State to solve this flood problem. So you can see this is just very specific about the topic and what we want to cover. Okay, so this is, you can just be copying this and pasting into your Microsoft Word document, and then later you can rearrange them to make more meaning, so you can just have a complete research proposal. But now we have talked about the basic, the title, and we've talked about the background, what you need to cover. Now the next thing is, can we generate the problem statement around this research proposal topic that we're working on? So just ask it, can you generate problem statement? So you can just ask, can you generate problem statement? Sure, it's just ask you, it's tell you, yeah, sure, can generate problem statement for the research proposal research for the proposed research. Okay, so despite some engineering measures being applied to address the flood problem in Kaduna State, the impact of flooding on critical infrastructure, public health, and the economy remains significant. Okay, so you can see it is giving you direct response. The rapid urbanization of the area has exacerbated the problem, and the existing drainage systems have not kept up with the with the pace of development. Okay, so drainage channels have been constructed that have been constructed are often poorly designed and constructed. So these are the problem it is stating for you clearly and directly. This has led to the increase in the flood risks in urban areas, and the lack of adequate drainage system has also encouraged the disposal of solid waste and into natural waterways, further exacerbating flood problems. Okay, so therefore there's a need there is a need for more comprehensive and systematic approach to flood management in Kaduna State, which incorporates modern engineering methods to design and optimize drainage systems in urban areas, reduce flood risks, and improve the resilience of communities to flooding. So what we are going to now ask it to do is, can you summarize this in, like, let's say 100 words? Can you summarize the problem statement in 100 words, for example? And you can see, just to show you how to relate with this ChatGPT and how powerful it is. You see the impact of flood mitigation of critical critical infrastructure, public health, and the economy remains significant and nested. So despite some engineering measures being applied to address the flood problems, rapid urbanization has exacerbated this. And if this is 100 words, I think 100 or less, okay, it cannot go beyond 100. So you can just copy this and go ahead and paste it, and maybe do some editings to fit into what you are specifically going to do. Because like I said, that ChatGPT can give you the bigger picture. So it's now left for you to couple up the things and see how you can relate it to your own case study in detail. Well, it can give you the general perspective. Now, let's say, can you help us to generate 3 or 4 objectives? Can you generate 3 objectives? Because the next thing is objectives of the study. So can you generate 3 key objectives for us, where it has to say, sure, there are 3 possible research objectives for the proposed study on flood management in Kaduna State. So to assess the effectiveness of the existing engineering measures to manage floods in Kaduna State, including drainage channels, solid waste management systems, and flood forecasting and early warning system. Okay, to identify the major impacts that contribute to flood mitigation in Kaduna State, such as a poor drainage system design, inadequate solid waste management, and insufficient urban planning regulations, and then to propose a set of engineering solutions to improve flood mitigation, flood management in Kaduna State. I think this is very, very specific and direct. If you want more objectives, you can ask it to write more, and it's going to give you more. But then to just cover up and show you how to deal with this, we can say you can relate, or we can say reduce the objectives to maybe 50 words each. Maybe let's say we write the objectives to 15 words each. It will just write it for you. Sure, there are the written research proposal in 15 words. So you can see it's just going to give you 15 words. Effective flood management, current situation measures in Kaduna State, identify major factors contributing to flooding in Kaduna State, and propose engineering solutions for improving flood management in Kaduna State. I think this is very fantastic, but I think I still prefer the first one. Okay, these 3 ones, they are more detailed and they capture most of the things we need. So this is about writing objectives of the study. The next thing is we can ask it to write the scope of the study. Can you generate the scope of the study? Okay, so let's see if you can give us the scope of the study that we can use for this particular study. Sure, this here is a possible scope for this study. So the study will focus on flood management in Kaduna State, Nigeria, with a specific emphasis on urban areas. Okay, the study will evaluate the effectiveness of the current engineering measures such as drainage systems, solid waste management, and flood forecasting and early warning systems. Okay, so this is just giving you the specifics, the scope, the direct area that you intend to cover during this study. Study will propose a set of engineering solutions for improving the flood mitigation, for flood management, including design and optimization of drainage systems in urban areas, the improvement of solid waste management system, and the use of modern computer models to simulate and predict flood events. So you can see now it has given you some of the key detailed areas, computer modeling and stakeholder consultations, and provide insights into the key challenges and opportunities for effective management in Kaduna State. So this is the scope of the research proposal. So the next thing is we are going to look at significance of the study. We're going to look at the significance. Can you give us the significance? So usually significance is usually the importance of the research. How important is it? What are the benefits? What do we stand to gain by conducting this research? You can see it's going to give us, sure, here are some of the possible significance of this research. Improve flood management, and it gives you details of how you're going to get it. So you can see it's giving you detail. If successful, research could lead to more effective flood management practices in the region, reducing the negative impact of the flooding on critical infrastructure, public health, and economy, And then we have better urban planning. So if we are successful by examining the role of urban planning and regulations and contributing to the flood problems in Kaduna State, the proposed research could inform the development of more effective urban planning strategies that incorporates flood management considerations. So you can see enhanced stakeholder engagement. And then we have advancement of engineering knowledge. Okay, so you can see the proposals have employ modern engineering methods such as computer modeling, optimization techniques, and design and evaluate flood management solutions and all that. And you can see one of the key benefits is most of the key things it is highlighting is giving us the detailed and how it is related to engineering, how the whole research relates to engineering. So we'll talk about significance. Next thing is we can talk about some of the research questions. So can you give us some research questions? Can you give us some research questions? And you can see, sure. So it's going to generate some research questions because in any proposal, you should have some research questions. So what are the major factors that contribute to the flooding in Kaduna State and how do they interact with one another? So how effective are the current engineering measures in managing flood in Kaduna State and so on? How can modern engineering methods such as computer modeling, optimization techniques be used in to design and evaluate more effective flood management solutions in Kaduna State? You can see these are critical questions that can lead to very, very interesting research in this area. So how do urban planning regulations and practices contribute to the flood problems in Kaduna State, and what changes could be made to improve flood resilience in the urban areas? You can see what are the social and economic and environmental impacts of flooding in Kaduna State, and how can stakeholder consultations and community engagement be used to build trust and collaboration among different groups and foster a more participatory and inclusive approach to flood management in Kaduna State? How can solid waste management systems be improved to reduce the amount of solid waste disposed of in natural waterways? Okay, so these are very, very interesting questions that we can add as part of our research questions to lead to maybe hypotheses or thereabout. So the next thing is can ask it to write some hypotheses for you. So can you write hypotheses from the research question? So you can say, can you write some hypotheses for us? Sure. Here are some possible hypotheses from the proposed flood management in Kaduna State. Hypothesis 1, you can see it very detailed. The major factors that contribute to the flood problems in Kaduna State include poor drainage system design, inadequate solid waste management, and insufficient urban planning regulations. And then we have hypothesis number 2. The current engineering measures to manage floods in Kaduna State, including drainage channels, solid waste, and flood forecasting and early warning systems, are not entirely effective due to challenges and limitations. You can see hypothesis number 3. You can limit the number if you want, or you can go ahead. The use of urban engineering methods such as computer modeling and optimization can lead to design and evaluation of more effective flood management solutions in Kaduna State. You can see hypothesis number 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 7. You see, improvement in solid waste management in Kaduna State can reduce the amount of solid waste. You can see now we have gotten a complete hypothesis. So the next thing is we may want to go ahead and write the limitations of the research question. These are just introduction. Okay, so can you state the limitations of this research? Okay, so let's hear the limitations, and then we can go straight to the last part in the introductory part. Okay, so this is limited data availability, and these are one potential limitation of this study is the limited availability of data. So it gives more detail. This could limit the ability of the study to accurately assess the scale and severity of the flood problems in the region. And then we have technical challenges. Another challenges could be applying modern engineering methods such as computer-based. This could be due to issues such as data quality, model validation, and computational resources. We may have the issues of computational resources, even problems of time and budget constraints. You can see social and political factors. We have all this, and then we have external factors such as climate change and natural disasters. It gives us all the details in terms of the limitations. So the last thing we may want to consider at the introductory part is some definition of key terms. You know, in research proposal, you should include the definition of some key terms, especially technical terms that you have used through if so that for people who are not familiar with the field can also go ahead and benefit, and they can understand and make your research proposal very easy and simple to flow along. So let's say, can you give us definition of the key terms? Yeah, so let's ask it. Yeah, it's going to give us, sure, here are some possible definitions of the key terms used. For example, flood. Just give us general flows, an overflow of water that submerges land that is normally dry. Okay, floods can be caused by natural factors, and it gives us detail. Then engineering, you see engineering is the application of scientific, mathematical, and practical knowledge to design. And you can see flood management, solid waste management. You can ask it to write more as urban planning. Okay, so you can see all this. And if you pinpoint or you are interested to write more on a particular topic or a particular keyword, you can just ask it to write. You can see urban planning, you can see stakeholders, you can see computer model. Yeah. This one is the use of mathematical and computational tools to simulate and analyze complex systems or processes. So you can see it has given you 7 key terms that it is used. So you can ask it to write more if you want. You can say write more terms. You can just ask it to write more terms and it's going to give you more. Sure, here are some more additional terms that may be used in this study. Hydrology. Okay, so hydrology is scientific study of water in the environment, including its movement, distribution, and quality. You can see drainage is giving you more detail in the definition of terms. Okay, so for anyone who is not in the field, you see land use, you have the definition, picture out others as well. You can keep asking it to write more. Erosion, these are terms that can be resulted from flooding that we are considering for today. So you can see erosion, you can see floodplain. You will hear about floodplain, which is a low-lying area adjacent to a river, stream, or other body of water, okay, that is subject to periodic flooding. So you can see you can have climate change. We'll talk about climate change in the proposal. Okay, you can see risk assessment. You hear about all this as we write more in the content. So this is just a way to interact, and it has given you more. Okay, so you can ask it to write more if you want, but I think at this point it's okay. It's quite okay for anyone to use. You can copy this and just go ahead and paste it. So the next field or the next part that we're going to enter is research literature review. How to conduct a literature review in this research proposal. So can you write some literature review in the topic? Okay, so to just go ahead and give you the literature review, but you can drive it along. Here are some examples of a literature review. So you can see it is now giving you directly literature review. Floods are common natural disasters in many parts of Nigeria. You can see it now gives you the bigger picture, including Kaduna State. Over the past few decades, frequency and severity of flood events have increased due to a range of factors, including rapid urbanization, deforestation, climate change. Climate change, the impact of this had been devastating, causing loss of lives, displacement of people, and so on. So you just drive it through. Just in recent years, you see it's now quoting previous events that have happened, because usually in literature review you're just going to check out what has been done, check out what areas of the study have been covered and what is not covered, and what you need to add up to make it. So you don't reinvent the wheel. Okay, so you know the areas that have been covered, you explore more methods that have been used. So you can just ask it, can you write more on the engineering techniques used so far? So you just ask it, and you can just drive it through, and it will keep on writing the content for you. Okay, so you can see stormwater drainage system had been applied, which is a very, very good area. So you can see suddenly here are some additional engineering techniques that have been used in Kaduna State. So it's just going to give you the key overview. You see, there's now talking about flood modeling and mapping had already been used in Kaduna State. So you can see now areas that you now concentrate, because you relate this to what you are going to conduct. Erosion control measures have also been looked into. So these are some of the key engineering areas that have been looked into. So when you are going to write, you should be aware of all this. And that's the very main essence of literature review. So you can see floodplain management. You can see you can have community-based flood management. This one also has been looked into. You can just keep asking and keep relating depending on the area of research you're working on. So it's going to give you more and more details. Okay, so you can now talk about, maybe you can go into the methods of assessment. Can you give us some physical methods that have been used to assess flood mitigation in Kaduna State? So you can just be very specific. physical methods of flood. So it's going to give you certainly here are some physical methods of flood assessment. So you can see field surveys. It's going to give you some details about some of the methods that have been used in Kaduna State. So field surveys have been used, remote sensing have been used. Now you can drive it to be very, very more specific, and you know how to channel it and then what I want to cover, so you don't reinvent the wheel like I said earlier. So you can have flood modeling. Flood modeling is a computer technique that simulates this. So engineers can use this method to carry out some of these key things. So you can see it is giving you more details about the physical methods that have been used. LiDAR, light detection and ranging methods have also been covered. Geographical information system, GIS have also been used, so you can also use it. Okay, so you can go ahead and keep asking more and relating more. You can say, what are some of the computer model or computer modeling methods that have been applied to study flood problems in Kaduna State. So you can say, can you give us some computer methods that have been applied to study? Certainly there are some computer-based methods have been used to study floods in Kaduna State. So you can see hydrological models. Okay, you can see engineers can use models such as to estimate river flow, runoff, groundwater recharge, and can help them to understand how floods occur and how to manage them. Examples, you can see it has given us the use of SWAT, the use of HICRAS, and many more. You can see other hydraulic models that it has used, river flow through the HICRAS. These are very, very interesting and very good software that you can use to develop models for the water-related problems. GIS also have been used, geographic information system, and you have ANN, artificial neural networks, have also been applied. Remote sensing has also been applied. So far, you can apply all these, and you can just choose based on these to just generate your own. So you can see some of the key methods. You can see also, we can also ask you to give us more details about some laboratory techniques that have been used to assess flooding so far. You can see in Kaduna, we can see so far. Can you give some laboratory methods that had been used to assess flood problems? So you can see, you can just ask it this very basic one and you can see the response. Okay, so certainly here are some laboratory methods that have been used to assess the flood problems. Okay, soil permeability testing. You can see all these have been, you can conduct soil permeability testing. It gives you details. Sediment analysis. You can see sediment analysis involved in examining the sediment carried by flood waters. Okay, soil sizes, shape, the composition of sediment particles. Engineers can gain insight into the flow velocity and intensity of the flood, which can help them to develop more accurate flood models. You can have flood water quality analysis. You can do all that. Hydraulic conductivity, geotechnical testing. These are just very basic testing that can help you in managing flood, because it all boils down to the porosity and the water carrying capacity of the soil that you are dealing with. So you can be very, very detailed and specific, and it will help you to write accordingly. And you can relate these findings to what you want to do in your research. The literature review at the proposal stage doesn't have to be too detailed, but you can just show the areas that at least you have covered, show the relevance, and show how it relates to what you want to do and how it defines or it made your work stand out generally. Okay, so how is your work different from others? Something like that. Then the next part of it is you can decide to go on and tell it to give you more details about some historical flood events that have happened in Kaduna State and citing data, citing key parameters that have been captured. You can give you all that as you move on. So now we can just go ahead and ask it to give us the methodology, which is one of the key, most important areas to cover in writing proposal writing. So let's go to methodology, and we can ask it to give us the methodology for conducting this research. Can you give us the methodology for conducting this research? And you can see now it's going to give you everything, but you have to drive it. Certainly there are some possible methodology for conducting this research. Define the research problem. If you have done that, you can just restate it clearly. Conduct a literature review, which you have done that, and you can see identify data sources. Data sources could include rainfall data, stream gauges, and other relevant data, maps, satellite imagery. You can see now this is very detailed. Okay, so now data collections. You see, primary data will be collected through surveys, interviews, field observations, and laboratory testings. Secondary data may include reports, articles, and official documents. And then we can have data analysis, how you're going to analyze the data. Data collected will be analyzed using descriptive and inferential statistical methods, geographic information systems, and other software packages. This will include identifying special patterns and relationships among the variables of interest. Now you can see through this research, we're going to develop flood models, okay? And you can be very specific. If you have a specific flood model at heart or in mind, you can direct it to give you more details about that particular model and evaluate flood management strategies, and then you can have conclusions and recommendations. So this is just like an overview of the research methodology. You can be more detailed about one aspect of it. Can you give us a step-by-step data collection method? Okay, so can you give us this step-by-step data collection method? So sure, here is a step-by-step data guide for data collection in the context of flood management research in Kaduna State. So the time and the research question, it has given us identify the data sources, it has given us, and then determine the sampling strategy, okay? Sampling strategy that will be used to collect the data. This may include random sampling, stratified sampling, purposive sampling, depending, okay? You can see collection of primary data. Now it has given you the details, surveys, interviews, field observations. These are key areas that you need to cover, and it's giving you in detail. Then collection of secondary data. Okay, this may include collecting data from reports, articles, and other official documents. This may include government reports, academic research articles, flood mitigation, flood modeling management, and official maps of flood-prone areas. So you just be very specific now related to your own area of study. So manage data. How are you going to manage the data? This may include entering the data into a database, creating spreadsheets, and using specialized software for data management. So you can do all that, and then you can start validating the data. How are you going to validate the data? Okay, you can include cross-checking the data for different sources and verifying the accuracy of the measurement. You can document the data also process. So this is just the general method of how step-by-step guide on how to conduct the research. So you can be very specific and say, can you give us more details about the use of Flow 3D in this research? So for example, Flow 3D is also another water resources software that you can use to write and develop models for water analysis and even flood mitigation measures. So you can say, can you give us, if you are very specific, it's going to be very specific also. Can you give us detail in the application Flow 3D for this research? So you can just be very specific with what you want, and it's going to be very specific in what it's going to give you. So you can see, yeah, Flow 3D is a computational fluid dynamics software that can be used to simulate fluid flow and flooding in Kaduna State. Here are some key details, some details on how Flow 3D can be applied. So setting up the model, you can see it's giving you details. So this is just an example of how you can be very specific in the prompt you give to the tool. Okay, running simulations, you can see analyzing the results. These are pre-processing, post-processing, and you can see the key details it's giving you. Validating the model. How are you going to validate the model? It is going to give you the details, and this is very, very specific. So it's now that for you, if you want to use Flow 3D or if you want to use another software, just be very specific and ask it the question, and it's going to give you the answer directly. So this is methodology. You're going to give in a Gantt chart. Usually, if you are detailed about the methods, you have to provide a Gantt chart that can give you the timeline on how you're going to cover it. So can you give us the breakdown on the timeline to conduct this research in 1 year? For example, if this research is to be conducted in 1 year, how is it going to spread the timing for you? So here's some breakdown of the timeline to conduct research to month 1 to 2. So you just be very specific and detailed. So month 1 to 2, this is what you should conduct. Month 3 to 4, this is what you should conduct. Month 5 to 6 is what you should conduct. So it's going to give you the detail about what you're going to cover in this 1 year. If you have specified 1 year, if you have specified 2 years, if you specified 3 years for PhD, for example, it's going to give you exactly how you're going to cover it. And it's now left for you to translate this into a reasonable Gantt chart, so you can just go ahead and apply it to your research. Okay, so you can see now we have covered some of the key things we need, And then now we can ask you to give an estimated budget or detailed budget of what is the research is going to cover. So can you give us for the research? Okay, so you can see it's just going to give you an idea. So sure, you just have to be very specific because the Pro 3D software, $20,000. That's the license is very expensive, you know. So but you can go ahead and just see how you can get it. Maybe a university can have it. Just ask around, and then you can see equipment and supplies for field work, $5,000. The idea is to give you an overview of what to cover. Even if you are going to include that, you can see how you can spread or separate the key items to cover: publications and dissertation costs and dissemination costs, data analysis software, $1,000, participant incentives. You can see equipment that you will need. You can ask it to write more if you want, okay? Or you can say, be very specific in the writing. You can ask it to write on this, and it's going to write for you. Like I said, mind you, the flow of the methods or the key terms that I covered might vary from school to school or from supervisor to supervisor. The whole idea is for you to have an idea into how to use ChatGPT to your own advantage to generate ideas, to be able to use it to conduct your research effectively. So one last, very last thing that we must cover is how to put in some expected results. Can you give expected results based on this research? So you just have some expected results based on the research. So usually these are the steps. Here are some possible expected results: a better understanding of flood management strategy in Kaduna State, a validated 3D model. So these are some of the key things we should expect at the end of it all. And during the presentation, identifying or highlighting some of these key expected results can give you an upper hand. The team can now know that you are fully aware of what you want to cover and what you are going to do. Better understanding of the socio-economic and cultural factors, a comprehensive database of flood events in Kaduna State. You can be very much more specific. You can ask it to write more, but the key idea is it has given you some expected results. Can you be very specific about engineering related conclusions, okay, or engineering related results? Can you be more specific about engineering related results? Ask it this question, and it's great to narrow it to you to engineering related things only. The development of a 3D hydraulic model of the study area would be done, which can be used to simulate flood events and evaluate effectiveness of various flood management strategies, identification of the most effective physical methods. Okay, it's going to give you this, and a validation of the 3D model through field data collection and all that. It's going to give you all this at the end of the research, and the identification of key design parameters and criteria for flood management. It's going to give you this as well. And then the assessment of the economic and environmental costs. It's going to give you all this. So this is just a summary of what it's going to cover, what is expected for this research, through this research. So the last thing that I want to cover is references. Can you give us some references based on what we have talked about, or that can be relevant to this research that we're going to conduct? So it's you see, can you give us some references related to this research? Okay, so let's see. Can you give us some references related to this research? Sure, here are some references related to flood management and engineering techniques in the context of Kaduna State and Nigeria. So you can see adequately this 2018. You can see it is giving us some references. Okay, so you just go ahead. Ologuno Risa 2018, you can see it's just giving us references. So this is just a brief overview of how you can use ChatGPT to write your complete research proposal for you. And you can be very broad and you can be very specific, like I said, but then it's now all boils down to you to be able to now see how you can relate it to your own case study, very specific. Okay, so you can just go ahead and study it, see how you can relate it to what you have, and relate it to your case study, and see how you can improve. So you can see you can ask it to write more references, but this is just to give you an idea into what is needed of you to cover during your research proposal, all the things that you need to cover. And one very good advice that I'm going to give researchers is to don't give the chunk, don't be too broad about the topic that you want to ask or the question that you want to ask. Be very specific and ask it small in bits, step by step, and then you can relate and direct it to where you want to cover, the scope you want to cover, the areas, the case study. But be very specific in the questions. Don't give broader questions. Give direct questions that you can respond to you, and you see the response, you copy it, take it back to your work, and then see how you can connect the dots, connect the main ideas, and see what you can do to make meaning out of it. But you can see we have written a lot. So like I said, the procedure and what we have covered might vary from school to school. So try to find out what is expected of you to cover in your research proposal from your school and see how you can improve on this. But this is just an idea on a general bigger picture about how to use ChatGPT to write this interesting proposal. So I hope you have learned something from this video. If you do, you kindly hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay connected to this channel for more videos like this. And I'll see you around. See you in my next video. Bye bye.